Okay, thank you everybody for doing the sixth inning stretch and moving over here. I really appreciate it. Uh, Today at lunch we have the Giving Back panel. To me, this is one of the most important panels of the day because everybody that's on this panel has done a tremendous job in making an impact in our community. I am so grateful for everybody to be here to be with our panel. Bobby Marks, if you don't know Bobby, Bobby is the head of Redeem Ministries, and Dennis Marks is with the task force, and also, wrong name, sorry, and also on the board of Redeem, as well as David and I are also on the board of Redeem. And if you don't know Redeem, it's the most successful recovery program for women from sex trafficking. Now, I'm first you can definitely meet with them after we're done on the panel. To my left is David Reed. I've known David, I don't know, 5 or so years ago, and I'm gonna also transition to Mr. Bruce Mann for a second. So you know how it works. Sometimes you walk into a meeting and you go, there's a different reason we're here. David and I met like 5 years ago in a business meeting, and within the first 5 minutes, I just looked at, we're not here for this. And Bruce Mann, same thing happened the year before. And we really pulled together and doing things to make an impact. And Bruce, if you don't know Bruce Mann, he's head of mobility down at the Port of Houston. And then came along this guy named Dan Henderson. I was like, David, who's Dan? He goes, oh, he's a competitor. I'm like, but he's supporting what we're doing. We're like, well, he's a friend, right? And then there's Mariella, who's the head of the foundation at Citgo, helping out, people that need help so much in what's going on in Venezuela. And at the same point, she's one of the leaders in diversity and inclusion. So I am honored to sit next to my dear friends. I would all call you dear friends. And today we're going to kick off what it's all about, how we get involved with impacting, and maybe how you can also do that. So I will simply start by saying, yep, I'm on the board of Red M with David. I won't take anything away from him on that. On Redeem, it became about understanding the numbers. If you never hear them, somebody first said to me that Houston and Texas is the worst place for sex trafficking. And we're talking about it. It's not prostitution. It's where your daughter was taken somewhere between 4 years old and older and forced into sex trafficking. We had a Sparrow, which is what we would call a graduate at Redeem Speak a couple of years back. And I'll give you an example. She's 28 years old with a two-year-old child. And she's just looking to figure out a way to find a new husband, get her out of the problem that she's in. Well, she gets lured into sex trafficking. Nobody would think that would happen at 28. You can understand how, disgusting it would be if somebody stole your child. And you also would have a problem once you know that it's real. When 4 executives had their daughters recovered from sex trafficking, it makes it real, because everybody usually thinks it's some Mexican or Asian thing. Okay, it's not. It's everybody's thing. It doesn't matter what your race, anything of that. It's all about somebody taking advantage of our children, our fellow adults, and trying to manipulate them for money. That 28-year-old, within 5 months, after dating this guy, said, hey, we're going to move to San Diego. Okay, move to San Diego. Within a month, he had her doing 20 to 30 tricks a day. Had her mind so screwed up that she didn't want to go back and get her child or go back and be with her parents. Made him seem like the enemy. Took 2 years to get her back out of there. Very sad. So it can happen to you, it can happen to me, whatever. But with that, I'm not here to scare you or anything. I'm just here to stay alert of your children and those around that you love and anybody that you can help. So the next thing, I don't know where she went. My wife is here. She actually owns one of our companies. She runs TMS Foundations, the other thing that we do, and that is all about education to get out of poverty. There's no other way to get out of poverty. You can't throw money at poverty and think it's going to get them out. If you don't educate the person, they can't get their family out of poverty. So with that, I know we have a tight time to try to make up here. I'm going to give you to David Reed. Thank you very much.
I heard keep it short.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep it fast.
Keep it fast. Okay. My journey really was, I think most of my career, I thought if I give back, it means I just give money. I'll work hard and I'll give money. And I did that until I think when my kids were in late teens, I realized, my wife had chosen to be at home, and I'm like, we need to decide who we're going to be after the kids are gone. And she said, okay, I'll think about that. And she came back and I said, okay, I got it. What we're going to do is we're going to fight human trafficking. And I was like, so it's not golf then? But that's what people think, right? They think, when the kids are gone, what will we do? We'll enjoy ourselves. But we started getting involved in various things, and eventually Redeemed became kind of our home method on the board. We learned a lot more. We thought it was international. We learned how much it was in Houston. Very shocking. There's lots to be shocked about, but I would recommend you get shocked about human trafficking and sex trafficking, not scared. That isn't helpful. Not fearful, not trying just hide away and protect your kids, but actually be shocked, get inspired, and do something. And so that's kind of where we went. I started working on the board with Redeemed, and then I kind of switched over. And on my first day sitting in the board meeting, I realized what a great. You want it closer?
Can I switch microphones?
We can switch.
Yeah.
Much better. Much better.
No.
Messing with Joel. That's much better. So basically, I got engaged on the board. I quickly realized I came from a marketing background, and I realized that these people are doing great work. I mean, they're capital efficient, which I love. As a Scotsman, I was in love with that idea. Like, they're very careful with the money they have. They make sure the money goes to the survivors. They do such a great job of recovery, but it's very, very expensive. And when you don't understand coming in and looking at it, is the process that these people go through when they're trafficked is not just the pain of the sex acts that they're pushed through, which work like rape in their brains. So there's all that to recover. But there's also, if you ever look at how cults work, it's very similar mechanism going on where there's isolation, there's the building them into a life in a pattern that feels like there's no way out. But it's all based on first love and connection, and then it's a very complicated thing to undo in their head, and that they've been trafficked. And so that work takes time. So there's a lot of intensive work in the recovery process. If you want to learn more about that, Dennis and Robbie can tell you all about it. But there's a lot of recovery work. So these guys, all they need is money. So when you're in the business world, they're like, that shouldn't be too hard for us. And so we gathered professionals together and started doing that regularly and saying, what can we do to help them and others? And so we've grown up. We have about 400 people we've given into Red End in some way or form. And we've done about 25 events across our time. And that's over 3.5 years. And so we're continuing to engage corporations to learn how can we give back, how can we get our employees involved. And so we're actually doing an event tomorrow in NOV's facility. You're all welcome at 10 o'clock to show people how you can get engaged in getting your company to give back, how to get your employees involved. But really the message I have for everyone is work out what you can do. This is what we do with Red M, is we kind of work out what are you really good at that's easy for you. And I think when I spoke on Friday, there's an executive sitting beside me. I sat back down with him and he said, I'm in, what do you need? And I'm like, I need your voice. Because he's an executive, male voices are really good in this space to talk about it. And so it just depends what you have. Whatever it is, it won't be hard for you. That's what I will tell you. if you come to us and say, I want to give something, we'll find something that's easy for you. And so it doesn't have to be burdensome, it doesn't have to be long, it could be an hour of time once a year, it can be, an hour once a week. I mean, we can make it work, but we can find ways to engage people. And that's what I've done. I've learned I like to do this stuff. It's all very easy for me. And the team around me likes to do stuff I hate doing. So that works really well. So that's kind of how I do it.
Thank you, David. I think that the work that you and Tim are doing is amazing in terms of raising awareness about trafficking, human trafficking. I'll talk a little bit about my journey. I start by saying that I've been in the oil industry for over 30 years. And in 2000, last year, I left Equinor and I was offered a position as the Simon Foundation manager. Or president. The Simon Foundation is a nonprofit for Citgo Petroleum Corporation. Citgo has 4 pillars of corporate social giving, education, disaster relief, environment, and health. And the foundation, most of the activity is related to the activity where we have the areas where we have activity, including refineries and our head office. But the Simon Foundation addresses the Venezuelans, which is the ultimate shareholder for Citgo. It is the Simon Foundation started in 2006 as a means of supporting patients that did not have the funds to receive treatment in Venezuela, and we were sending the patients abroad to get treated. Those patients in the past had access to medical services in Venezuela, but because of the system, they lost the opportunity, or the system did not have the capacity to treat these patients. So through the years, patients were treated by these very complex diseases, and it was very high cost at the same time. In 2019, when the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela increased, the board, the new board, reviewed the mission and evaluated what was the best way of creating more impact and target a larger number of individuals with the funds that we had. So with that, I was brought into the foundation. For me, it's kind of like a dream job in the way that I am from Venezuela. The foundation works with Venezuela, so it was a way to help the situation. And I'll just share some numbers because the Venezuelan humanitarian crisis is not well known, and it is the largest humanitarian crisis unfunded at this moment. Even if you consider Syria, Afghanistan, it's the largest unfunded crisis. Out of 5 million Venezuelans have left the country in the past since 2015, and out of 28 that remains in the country. Colombia is the country that has received the most, with 2 million Venezuelans that left the country, but the U.S. has also received several. The numbers are astonishing. More than 76% of the population lives in extreme poverty, and more than 95% live in poverty. And extreme poverty is defined as people that do not make more than $1.9 per day. Doctors in Venezuela, the ones that work in private hospitals at one point, did not make more than $10 a month. And the economy has deteriorated and it has become more dollar-based. They could not afford to pay what they had. Nutrition levels are, we see that there's malnutrition, we see that the morbidity rate and mortality rate in Venezuela is the worst in the last 30 years. And we see that the life expectancy rate in Venezuela has decreased by 6 years versus probably 2014. So it's really sad what's going on. I came into the foundation in March 9th last year, just when COVID started. 1 week later, we were sent to work from home. And during last year, I had to set up the change in mission. We had 5 rounds where we awarded more than $3 million in grants for Venezuelans mostly, and we benefited more than 100,000. On a personal basis, besides the foundation, I have also been engaged in different causes. And as David, I think that the message is there's many things that you can do. You can find activities where, you can either give money, which is the easiest one, and I would encourage to look what your companies have in terms of matching. But also you can dedicate time to any cause that you're attracted to. And the last message I would like to give is also, engage your kids at an early stage about giving. There's many opportunities to give back, and I think when you create it as a habit, since they are kids, that will grow through the future. I have several organizations that I can recommend for kids. There's organizations about doing community work abroad that also gives the opportunity to the kids to learn how great, how they are blessed in a way to have what they have here in the U.S. and see the other countries and help them. That builds leadership skills and also provides them the opportunity to be in another culture, which always opens the eyes. So, with that.
Thank you very much, Mariella. And Tim, thank you for having me. David, it's great to be sitting here with you. David and I have known each other for quite some time, but have never done anything like this together, which is a shame. So hopefully we'll do a lot more of that. So I will just start by saying that I believe truly that giving is living. And I was raised by an evangelical mother, and I used to say heroin addicted father, and that got a lot of reactions, and I think that was my motivation. But it is true, my dad was a heroin addict for many years and an alcoholic to his death. But what's interesting is that because in my home, no one spoke about higher education. Hell, no one had ever even graduated from high school. So it was only by luck. I was literally closing my eyes when I hit a home run at a regional game of my high school baseball career, which I played varsity 1 year. And this is a true story. I was literally closing my eyes, 0-2 curveball, and I hit a home run. We ended up winning the game. I got a scholarship to play baseball on the Radio Texas. So short of it is, though, the installation that my mother had put in me and the hustle that my father had shown, I think married well and becoming a person that has made his life. And I can say this with a lot of humility and confidence because I feel safe in this room about giving is living. And I haven't really coined that phrase, but I say it a lot. And as I wrestled with what in the world I would share with you guys today, and Tim asked me to come, be on a panel at supply chain conference. I mean, I could talk about all that stuff for days, but it doesn't get me really excited. It make me want to get up and come down here. This does. So, sorry that gave that I lost my train of thought for just 1 second. So when Tim asked me that, I said no, and then he, of course, he hooked me with things like that. Well, let's talk about this is what I like you to talk about. I said, okay, I'm there. Of course, I'm never prepared. I'm not a public speaker. But I did write some things down, which I probably will need to look at. But I want to make sure I'm doing on time. I think if anything, practically speaking, I don't know, but just by a show of hands, if you work for another company, raise your hand and don't own your own company. Okay. And then if you're an entrepreneur, okay, so, all right. I'll talk to you guys another time. What I have found is that, I'm a small business guy. I've had companies that employ dozens of people up to hundreds of people at a time. Okay, so gives you an idea of the scale. But it does work because people are the one things that make anything scalable. Especially if you instill in them and show them and model them some consistency in the values that you as an individual and or your leadership team subscribe to. So in saying that, I have found that practically speaking, people truly do want to stand up for what is right and what is good. I believe that people are inherently good. And also have seen that so to your point, it starts at home, right? Just modeling the giving heart. So I have 5 children. My oldest is 14. I'm going to come back to that real quick, but just to your point, I took my son to India when he was 10 to visit an orphanage that we built with some other people. But anyway, going back to the people that work for us, we've always been very good about allowing for our people to participate in things that we're doing first in our immediate community where we work. So wherever our plants are, wherever our offices are, wherever our people are stationed, we're always finding ways, and we ask them to help with that. And so and that doesn't cost money, really. It just takes some time, a little bit of attention. That's turkeys and hams and Christmas and holidays for the communities around. I've never had a theft problem in any plant, period. And I've been all over the world manufacturing, so that works. But then the last piece is, and I'm just thinking about practically, when you give in a way that is intentional, that's what I was looking for. That's when people really get behind it. So I think, and I'll leave you this, our philosophy, my wife and I's philosophy, kind of to what Dave spoke to, you know, we give big to a couple of things that we're really passionate about. And then we give early and often, but in smaller amounts of our time, attention, resources, and influence to those things that, you know, matter. And so I think if anything, you know, get a plan, get a goal, get up off your ass, and start getting today.
Sorry, that's just a really good movie.
Yeah. So I guess I have 15 minutes. No, just kidding. People probably look at the job description and wonder why I'm sitting up here. It's interesting. It's easier, I think, to lead when you're at the top of an organization. It's a hell of a lot harder to do it from the middle of an organization. I realize there's probably a bunch of folks here that are in middles of organization. I can tell you that you can move organizations from the middle. I'm in the middle of trying to write a book actually called Leading from the Middle. Because I've been in a couple of large organizations. If I said the name of the church, you would know what the church was. And I worked for the port, and in both organizations, I've moved them down the road in at least building awareness and fighting human trafficking. Where other people said, tried to do it before it failed, I succeeded. And I think it's just about passion, opportunity, and opening your mouth when you get the chance. I think, you know, everyone in this room has been blessed. We've all been given a lot. And to whom much is given, much is expected. And if you're not giving back something, it's time to get off your ass and give something back. Because we've been blessed, we've been fortunate, we live in the best country in the world. We make more in a day than most people make in a year. And we need to help people. And not only people in other countries, but people in our own country. You know, I know this person who kind of grew up in a dungeon. They were abused, neglected, left out. When they were 16, 17 years old, they ran away from home, small town. There's a highway that bisects the town. So you've got three choices: left, right, down the highway, or across to the other side of town. As Dennis would tell you, if you go left or right, you're probably trafficked. Because you got on the highway and you hitched a ride, and the odds are you're going to be trafficked. It's just what they are. By the grace of God, this kid went to the other side of town, went to his friend's house, and managed to avoid that. But this is how simple it is to end up being trafficked. Because your choice is stay in an abusive environment or try to leave it. And then you get into another abusive environment, and it's either, you know, hey, this person gives me some money with the pain. That's a hell of a lot better than just being abused at home. So it's the lesser of two choices, right? Like, pick which evil you want. So for me, this is personal because that kid was me. And I was the one that was lucky enough to go to the other side of town. I didn't end up trafficked. And I worked in a church for a few years, 10 years in ministry, and realized we've been ministering to people that were being trafficked, and we didn't even know it because we didn't know the questions to ask or how to recognize it. And the biggest thing we could do is talk and have a voice and give a voice to the issues that are facing this country and the world. Because it's funny how things can happen. I was at a Texas Oil and Gas Association meeting with David and some others. I think Tim was there too. And Andrea Sparks, who works for the governor, was there. And they were talking about how the oil and gas industry can help fight human trafficking. And after the meeting, I kind of jokingly said to Andrea, you know, hey, if you're trying to stop human trafficking by not allowing companies to expense strip clubs, you're in the right place. But if you're really trying to change this issue in America, we got to get in the church. And we got to change culture, and we got to change hearts. And she was like, I never thought of that opportunity, right? Like, I had a mouth and I had an opportunity. I'm talking to the person who's running human trafficking, fighting it for the state of Texas. And the next thing you know, we create a program called GRACE, the Governor's Response Against Childhood Exploitation. And a year later, there's 13 different faiths sitting around the table inside the Capitol talking about human trafficking. And now it's moving forward. Why? Passion, opportunity, and a voice. I'm no smarter than anybody else, but I can run my mouth. So sometimes we just got to give a voice to the people that don't have a voice. And sometimes we have to help the people in poverty and get them education. You know, Venezuela is an interesting thing. I'm involved in a nonprofit that actually is helping people from Venezuela that went to Trinidad. And because there's 70,000 people in Trinidad that came from Venezuela. Trinidad has a population of about 1.2 million people. So they added 70,000 people basically overnight. Talk about an impact on the country. And there's no safety net for these folks, right? So we go down to the south of Trinidad, and you can see Venezuela from Trinidad. It's 7 miles. And I go to this house, and there's 23 people in this house that's not any bigger from here to there and there to there. There's 23 people in this house, and we're talking to them. And I speak a little bit of Spanish, and you know, we start talking to these girls, and we're like, hey, if we start talking to them about human trafficking, and if this happens, you know, call these people, call us, or get help. And this was the day before we come back to the U.S. The day after we get back to the U.S., one of the girls messages one of the people that was with us and says, hey, one of our friends got taken. And, you know, so the friend that I went with messaged me and says, hey, what do I do? I said, well, try to find out where they went. So the next day, I know I got a picture of the person that took him, and I got a picture of the house that they're at. So I reach out to Mino Patel Davis, who works for the mayor, and I said, hey, I need a contact at the State Department. I contact state. This is a person who's actually in the military in Trinidad, so you can't just call the government, like, because people are going to protect this person. So anyway, one thing leads to another. They raid the house, the girls get free, and the guy's in jail. Why? Opportunity, passion, and voice. Give a voice to people who don't have one. We can all do something. And I'm tired of people saying, well, my organization won't do it. Well, be passionate about it. Look for the right opportunity and have a voice and say something. And we can move the world, because I've moved the port, and I'll just out the church. I moved Lakewood Church. Because people expect a lot out of Lakewood. They do a lot of things, and, you know, you can't do everything, but I'm a squeaky wheel and I made them. So, but be passionate about it and give people a voice, because you can move organizations from the middle. If you find the right opportunity, engage the right people at the right time, you can change the world. Thank you.
I know we're trying to get caught up, but I want to open it up for questions. Anybody has any questions? Glad to take them. Well, then I would say this. There's not one non-passionate person on this panel. And they are all right. And that's probably every time I'm at a speaking event, I talk about this. So, and I know that everyone on this table does the same thing. And it's not about us. It's about them. And it's about helping everybody else out there. Not one of these people on this panel grandstands. We're here to do it to help, and we're convicted to do it to help. And we hope that sharing with you today will also invigorate you to do something as well. Thank you very much. I'm going to get some lovely awards, and I would encourage you to meet with Bobby and the illustrious husband. So, and they can share with you exactly the passion that they deal with every day by helping these women over at Redeemed, Dennis and Bobby Marks. Thank you very much for what you do, both of you. Thank you. All right, Bruce, since you gotta go first. Global Accord Executive of the Year that's willing to talk. You know, Mario, I don't know what to say other than, you know, there's a tremendous amount of people that appreciate what you do. And I probably met 30 of them in the last 7 days. And I know they all wanted to be here as well. But your award is for Global Diversity Inclusion Leader of the Year, and we know it's way more than that. So congratulations and thank you for what you do. Now, you had this before, you got an award earlier, and you know what this one is possibly. And I really believe this belongs to the one great heart at this table, because there's a lot of great hearts. Dan Henderson, Humanitarian of the Year. Thank you for what you do. Okay, so we're ready to go with the next panel. We'll go do some photos and we'll be right back.